This video covers the topic of ethically aligned design. The IEEE handbook with the same name is a very good resource if you want to read it. Much of this video is based upon information in the handbook. There are 3 parts to this video. The first explains what ethically aligned design is. The second covers ethics from a diverse perspective. And the third covers the problems with autonomous systems in warfare. So what is ethically aligned design? Well, the IEEE says that it's a vision for prioritizing human well-being with artificial intelligence and autonomous systems. So why should you care about it?
Over the past 5 years,
autonomous and intelligent systems, including mobile robots and artificial intelligence, become increasingly deployed into people's homes.
one of the most prevalent examples is
It's an automatic vacuum cleaner.
and because these systems have to act
Independently of human interaction, it leads to the desire for them to possess human morals, so that they can maximize human well-being.
obviously the main aim of doing
This is to reduce the physical harm and damage that can be done by these autonomous systems to people and their property. But also issues like privacy and transparency raise their hair.
there also exists a well-known worry that autonomous systems could start taking over people's jobs.
That can lead to
Extreme social turmoil. What this means is you can't introduce
autonomous systems
to do everything.
into any country. You have to do it based on whether there's a profound need for low-skilled labour. So there are 5 general principles laid out by the IEEE concerning ethically aligned design. First of which being human rights. So this means that every single human right has to be satisfied by the design, and this is related to the second one as well, which is human well-being being upheld. Third one's like different. It's emphasis on the designer of what accountability they have for their design decisions. This is similar to transparency, which means the most ethically contentious design will be open to scrutiny from the public. The last principle is being aware of misuse and factoring that into the design so that it reduces the likelihood of it.
Alright, but how does ethics play into all this? Well, it's important to consider that ethics, which is considered normal by the scientific community, is extremely dominated by Western capitalist liberal views. This is demonstrated by the fact that the majority of artificial intelligence startups are based in the US. So what actually constitutes Western ethics? Well, if you think about it, migration to the Western world has caused Western countries to become much more secular, and as a result, their ethics is extremely tolerant from the rest of the world.
In fact, most other ethical systems
Slot nicely within Western ethics, and just add emphasis on a specific point. It's important to note, however, that Western ethics is derived from 3 particular schools of thought. One, utilitarianism, which says your actions are justified if they lead to the best possible outcomes. Deontology, which stresses following moral rules. And virtue ethics, which says having the best character traits is what matters. Aristotle was of the latter opinion. He believed humans could flourish if everyone sought happiness by developing and practicing virtuous traits. And another Western philosopher fit more into deontology. He believed that everyone could look within themselves and use rational logic to make the best choices, rather than submitting to their own desires. Kantian ethics is probably the most applicable to autonomous systems, since it's so logical. However, it does not agree perfectly with the mathematical favour of utilitarianism, because perception is not allowed at all. Turning to the rest of the world, the Japanese that believe in the Shinto religion believe that inanimate objects can have spirits and personalities of their own. This goes some way to explaining why Japan has vastly more humanoid autonomous robots than the rest of the world. Chinese Confucianism, self-proclaimed least religious religion, is actually quite Western in the fact that it follows both rule-based and virtue-based ethics. So they place additional weight on respect to elders and family. This alludes to the fact that autonomous systems should behave obediently towards their own family, be able to distinguish between them and above it. Ubuntu, the sub-Saharan school of ethics, places the utmost value on the well-being of the community. Communities like this, which shun Western individualism, will require their autonomous systems to be programmed differently to serve the community rather than replace people's jobs. The final school of thought we're covering, Buddhism, is more of a worldview which places emphasis on achieving liberation mentally for yourself. Autonomous systems certainly give humans liberation from completing menial tasks, and maybe Buddhism is the biggest call for autonomous systems to be implemented. With geopolitical tensions as high as they've been in my lifetime, it's important for people to recognise
autonomous
systems used in warfare could pose an extreme risk to the safety of humanity.
The Red Cross defines an autonomous weapon system as a system that can select and attack a target without human intervention.
But this is only the bare minimum they're capable of.
Future autonomous weapon systems might be able to coordinate between themselves to achieve a single human command.
Luckily, the Geneva Convention
States that every new weapon system needs to be reviewed. This ensures that
every weapon is meaningfully controlled by humans.
it's hard to believe that anything positive can come from this technology. But there are the potential positives, that the casualties of war will be reduced, and also wars will be ended faster.
But these statements face a number of issues, 9 of which I'll be covering. 1.
War becomes more politically viable because humans' lives don't have to be put on the line.
2.
Just like nukes, these weapons could cause an arm race.
Which would definitely put safety on the back burner. The third one is that any machine learning based algorithm can have extremely perverse and
Unpredictable outputs,
especially when they're communicating between themselves.
This means that there's a potential for conflicts to rapidly escalate
Because these unpredictable autonomous systems act so fast that there ain't a chance for humans to relay a de-escalation command. The fifth issue is that power can become overly concentrated because a large number of autonomous weapon systems can be controlled by a single human. This could constitute as a weapon of mass destruction and is extremely abusable in the wrong hands. It is possible that a genocide could be committed by these autonomous systems.
They've been trained based on racial profiling,
And these weapons don't require uranium or any special chemicals like that,
so they could be built by anyone anywhere.
eventually being used in authoritarian police forces and
Private security systems.
second to last, cyber attacks will become much more prevalent in wars, because these new weapon systems will become completely controllable by computers. This all means wars will become much less stable. Last, systems can travel independently. It means that they're much harder to trace back to their creator. Similarly, evil designers can blame their crimes on artificial intelligence. Taking us back to ethics, only possible belief system that would tolerate autonomous weapon systems would be utilitarianism. But this requires lives to actually be saved. In conclusion, let's be glad that Putin doesn't have the technology to build autonomous weapon systems.